What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. My name is Tonibryanne, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing how 30 is apparently the new 60. I'm sure if you have any sensibility, you are probably just as appalled at that title as I am, but by the end of this video, I'm sure you guys are going to understand exactly where I'm coming from. But before we get into today's video, you guys know I like to start off every video with a little bit of positivity, so let's first start off with the quote of the day. Today's quote of the day is, "I am fueling my mind with inspiration to continue to grow and evolve." Today's verse of the day is Romans chapter 8, verse 28, and it reads, "God's plan for you is always the best. Sometimes the process is painful and hard, but don't forget that when God is silent, He's doing something for you. Trust the process." Please be sure you guys are following me on all my social media platforms. I am on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel where I do girl chat, I do vlogs, so y'all can see what I do a little bit more behind the scenes. So if you guys want to see more of that content, please go ahead and follow me there. And on Instagram and TikTok, just to see more of my personal takes, my cute pictures I take, please be sure to support me there too. I also have a podcast called The Decision Podcast. It's about how one choice can impact your entire life. The show is raw, real, vulnerable, something that you definitely would want to watch and tune into. So please go ahead and check out The Decision Podcast. And this show is also a podcast too. So we're not just on YouTube, we're also on platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other audio streaming platforms. So if you're currently watching from one of those audio streaming platforms, hey, how are you guys? Well, thank you for tuning in. And I think that is all of the housekeeping today. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's video.
Taking you in this moment.
So it's so funny because I actually did this video maybe almost 3 years ago now, and I was a fresh 22 years old, which is crazy. Time is flying. So now with me being an old 24, because I will be 25 in just 2 months, and with me getting very close to the age of people starting to say I'm pushing 30, I thought this would be a great time to film this video again and give a bit more of my insight, especially with a more mature brain and a frontal lobe almost formed. And I'm honestly just getting tired of seeing people pushing the narrative that women just fall off and die after 25. It's tiring, it's boring, and it's lame. I also recently just saw the movie The Substance. It is currently on HBO Max, so if you guys want to check that movie out, I think it is a phenomenal movie. It does a great job at depicting the reality of women when they get older and how society treats them. I just saw it yesterday. It is kind of a horror film, a little bit gory with some scenes, but that is another component that inspired me to make this video. I feel as a woman in this society, especially as you approach your mid to late 20s, there are so many pressures put on us to age. They're calling 25 old. They're saying if you're 27 and still single, you might as well just die. If you want to do a fun TikTok trend, you're told you're too old to be doing it. It's just so annoying and tiring. As someone who hasn't quite experienced this just yet, I did briefly have an experience when I just went to Italy just a month ago. I was in Rome and it's currently study abroad season. Unfortunately, I didn't get to study abroad because of COVID, and my entire trip got canceled. But there were a lot of college kids there, and study abroad age is typically sophomores to juniors. So a lot of them were between the ages of like 19 to 20. And I remember when I would be at certain clubs or bars and I would tell these young girls or these young guys my age, which is 24, they would say things like, "Oh my God, you're 24? I thought you were so much younger." Or, "Oh my God, you look good for your age." I look good for my age. I'm like, am I about to fall off the earth and die? I'm literally 24. I have not even had my quarter life crisis yet. And it really just showed me that people are depicting women as old at younger and younger ages. And almost as if when you hit 29 years old, you're nearing towards the end of a cliff that you're gonna fall off of when you hit 30. We've entered this very odd era where aging is seen as a failure, or aging isn't seen as a blessing. Now, granted, this has been something that has been depicted in society for years on end. When it comes to women and beauty standards, we've always been deterred from aging. Think of anti-wrinkle creams. Think of the plastic surgery business. All of these things are sold for us to maintain our youth longer and longer. And it's to the point where some women feel shame to say their age after 25 years old. And to me, I'm just concerned at what this is going to do do for the mental health of many women coming up, especially when they're not on the traditional path that was shown to women for years and years on end. Which gets into my very first talking point, the history of women when it comes to aging. Between the 1950s to 1970s, women were expected to be married by 21 years old. It's almost as if once you got past 21 and you weren't married, you were seen better off as dead, okay? Life literally revolved around being a wife and a mother. So if you weren't either one of those things at that age, it was almost shunned in society. But by the 1980s to 1990s, career-oriented women were on the horizon. However, if those career-oriented women weren't married or had children by 30, they still were seen as washed up and tired, and that biological clock was still ticking. Women were still having children in their 20s. Women were still becoming wives at that point. I would say between 2010 until today, women were less expected to become moms and wives so young. Women are now traveling. Women are now dating. They're not just marrying the first boy that they met at 13 years old. They're moving cities. They're changing their jobs. They're getting multiple degrees. They're starting businesses, going out with friends, clubbing, exploring themselves before they settle down. We have now seen and appreciated the fact that we have our whole lives to be mothers and wives. There's so much more to life than just being labeled those two things. And we're now seeing the potential negative effects of women that do that rushing. I don't know if you guys seen that video of Ayesha Curry, who is Steph Curry's wife. Steph Curry is a professional basketball player, and I think he's like the #1 shooter of all time in the NBA. She is 37 years old. She has been married to Steph since she was about 21 years old, and they basically had kids back to back ever since then. And she met him when she was in Christian camp, I believe, at a very young age, in her early teen years, and they popped out babies back to back almost. And now they have 4 children. And Ayesha was speaking on the fact that she didn't see herself having children. She wanted to be a chef. She saw more for her life. She wanted to be that career-driven woman, but she very quickly fell into being just the mother and wife because she moved very quickly at a young age.
I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it. And I had my eyes set on my goals. And I was never the little girl that like dreamt about the wedding dress and all of that. And then it happened so early in my life. So it's like, it's one of those things like you don't know what you actually don't know what you want.
Getting married at 21, you don't know much about yourself. Me at just 24, when I look back at myself at 21, I am a completely different human being. I used to love going out. I used to love partying. I used to love dating. I used to love doing all those things. But as I'm creeping up on age 25, I'm desiring those things less and less. And just imagine if I had a baby at 21 years old and didn't get the chance to experience that source of living, experiencing clubbing, experiencing hanging out with my friends, experiencing living in 3 different cities by myself. I would still be yearning for that and feeling like I missed something about my life. So I personally feel like waiting was the best thing I could have done for myself, because I probably would have ended up in Ayesha Curry's shoes. And Ayesha Curry's not the only woman in their 30s that says this. There are so many women on a plethora of social media platforms, and even your aunties and your grandmas, ask them, who are saying getting married and being a mom isn't all that it's hyped up to be, especially if you didn't get a chance to live your life to the fullest. So all that says to me is that Ayesha Curry's 37 years old, right? She's still feeling like there's so much more life to live, which she indeed has. So what is the purpose of us rushing ourselves to be married, then to be a wife, then to be a mother, when we have so many different chapters of our life to uncover and discover ourselves?
Who you were at 18 or 20 is not the same person you're going to be at 30. You don't have financial stability. You don't have a career. You don't know where you're going. There's so many question marks, and you haven't developed into who you are. You're just trying to figure things out.
Getting married was the worst decision of my life. I got married at 21, and now at 25, I realize what a mistake I made. I'm an educated professional with multiple degrees, while my husband only has a high school diploma. Somehow, his entry-level job is still more important. His hobbies are more important. His time is more important. His preferences hold more weight. Everything is centered around him. I want a divorce, but I don't want to split time with our child with him. He cuts every corner possible while parenting, and I'm worried about the sort of care my child would receive while with him alone. I live with this excruciating knowledge that I settled, and it's only made my life worse. Because of his lack of career prospects, I'm the breadwinner, the primary household manager, the default parent, and the list goes on. I told him ad nauseum how all of this impacts me, but it's clear he doesn't care. I'm but a star in his orbit, and that's what he expects in perpetuity. The best advice I can give young women is do not marry a man unless you're willing to take care of him almost like a mother cares for a child. I sit and daydream about how much easier my life would be if he wasn't in it, single motherhood and all. Having children is the biggest regret of my life. I'm a 38-year-old woman in a loving, long-term marriage. My husband and I always thought we wanted kids. We were stable, building our home, both in full-time work, so when I accidentally fell pregnant with our son, we told ourselves this was the right time. We had the house, the jobs, the commitment. This was the next box to tick, right? We decided to go ahead with the pregnancy. The birth was traumatic, and those first months were rough. He was a difficult baby, and I struggled to adjust to motherhood, but eventually things started to settle. I even managed to start freelancing, which gave me some flexibility. When our son was 10 months old, I found out I was pregnant again, 2 under 2. I was hesitant because I knew how much I had struggled the first time, but my husband had always wanted 2 kids. I told myself, let's just get it over with. A few hard years, and then we'll be through the worst of it. Our daughter was born, and she was a dream baby. She barely cried, slept well, and was calm and easy. I thought maybe we had turned a corner. Now, 8 and 10 years later, I can say this with absolute confidence. Having children is the worst thing I've ever done. Parenting is relentless. I am emotionally and mentally drained every single day. My husband is wonderful, truly hands-on, but at the end of the day, moms are still the default parent. He returned to his full-time job on afternoon shifts, and I've been the one forced to sacrifice everything, constantly reinventing myself, professionally and personally, just to make it all work. I've done well for myself career-wise. I found a flexible hybrid role that pays well, more than my husband's job, but the logistics around school, activities, and everything else are overwhelming. The workload of parenting is crushing, and nothing prepared me for how much it would take from me. And my kids, they're not easy. They are demanding, strong-willed, and high needs. No matter how hard I try, the routines, the structure, making sure they have what they need, it's never enough. They throw it back in my face. This generation of kids feels entitled, like they don't care about consequences. We've tried everything, from gentle parenting to strict boundaries. Nothing works. I genuinely hate being a parent. I hate the thankless grind of it all. And yes, hate is a strong word, but after 10 years, I feel like parenting has been one long, soul-sucking mistake. If I didn't have such a strong, loving relationship with my husband, I would have walked away by now and left them all behind. I share this because I wish someone had been brutally honest with me before I had kids. We are sold this idea of a village, but for most of us, there is no village. Grandparents still working full-time, unaffordable childcare options, no community to lean on. You cannot predict the child you'll get. Some are easy, but some will test every last shred of your mental and emotional stability. All I can do now is endure. I'm counting down the years until they move out, and I can reclaim myself. But for now, I live with huge regret.
Women today are seemingly stretching out their lives. We're experiencing more. We're exploring more. We're doing more. So if anything, to me, it appears that we're aging slower, quite frankly. 30 today isn't what 30 was back in 1970. 30 today honestly feels more youthful because our mothers and our grandmothers at 25 were ironing clothes and changing diapers, and that was the norm. So they technically probably were a bit more mature in that regard because they had more responsibilities surrounding being a mother, surrounding being a wife. So that's why I always find it really funny that we're seeing more ageism in our community, especially in this generation and the later generations, saying that 30 is old and washed up when we literally are just starting our lives. I think 30 is when life really does begin. Take for instance the show Sex and the City. I think all young women, primarily between the ages of like 22 to 23 when you're just starting life to like your 30s and honestly so on after that, you should watch that show. I think this show is a perfect representation of what being a woman is, being single, being independent, what friendship is like, what dating is like. All of that is depicted in that show, and it's depicted incredibly well, and I wish I could watch it for the first time again. But when it comes to the show Sex and the City, do you guys know in the first season when the show first started, all of the women from Charlotte to Miranda to Samantha to Carrie, they were between mid-30s to 40 years old, right? And you saw them. They were still going out. They were experiencing life. They were having late nights. They were smoking pot. They were embracing and enjoying that chapter of their lives despite all the hardships and ups and downs they may have been going through. It shows that after 25, you have a whole bunch of life to still live, from career to your friendships to self-discovery. There's so many key components that we learn about ourselves throughout these years. You're not going to have it all figured out at 25. So why at 25 are we deemed dead and gone? Even the show Friends, they were mid-20s to their early 30s. The show Girlfriends, they were also mid-20s, early 30s. Life is not over when you hit your mid-20s. But I think that's what shows perfectly what the current crisis is. Speaking of aging, the older I get, the more I realize I can't just wing it when it comes to my health. Like, I'll be sitting there thinking like, maybe that back pain will just disappear. Or maybe that constant bloating or stomach pain after I eat a meal is just regular. And it isn't a sign that I might actually need to go see a doctor. But deep down, I know it probably is the case that I should go see a doctor. But the problem is finding one. The system makes it feel almost impossible sometimes, until I discovered ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and instantly book appointments online. And once you find your doctor, you can see their real-time appointment openings and click instantly to book a visit. Appointments usually happen within 24 to 72 hours, but sometimes the same exact day. I use ZocDoc myself, and trust me, it is an ultimate game changer, especially when you're tired of calling around and asking doctors when their next available appointment is, and you find out it is 3 months from today. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Toni. There you can find and instantly book your next appointment today. That's ZocDoc.com/Toni. Before, we would primarily see men putting women down for getting older. Why? I have no idea. But they would always say a woman's old and basically washed up by the time she's 30. Or you'll see men get divorced from their wives and end up getting with a younger woman. We've seen this all the time. We see that women have always been told that we lose our value after we get to a certain age. But what's concerning is now the girls are doing it. And not just any girl, the younger girls are doing it. They're the ones judging other women for getting older.
The way that it is normal these days for someone in their late teens or early 20s to call someone in their late 20s or 30s old or washed up or bitter. I just find that really disturbing. And even sometimes I get comments like that from other women, and I'll go to their profile just to see what they look like. And sometimes they have their age in their bio, and they're like 5 years younger than me. Like, girl. And honestly, I don't get offended when I read comments like that. I get concerned.
And why do I think this exactly? Well, I think this is because age isn't the fear. The fear is actually being irrelevant. In the era of social media, we see people come and go so much. Who was the hottest topic today is not the hottest topic tomorrow. There are constantly new creators coming up that are younger and younger.
Because making fun of somebody for something that you will inevitably experience is a fool's errand, in my opinion. Because what are you going to do when you're 27, 28, 29, 30? You're going to have a nervous breakdown. And I warn you, if you tie a lot of your self-worth and identity to the fact that you are in your early 20s, you're going to have a very hard time transitioning in life. But yeah, just remember that one day, if you're lucky enough, you will be that same age that you make fun of.
Social media made us believe that our youth is our currency because the algorithm tends to favor fresher and younger faces, and they're seen as more relatable for some reason. I'll never forget, I don't know if you guys know the girl Lala, the Island Girl. She's a popular influencer and streamer, but when people found out that she was 26, just 26 years old, okay? Meaning she was born in 1999. People were like, oh my God, I didn't know she was that old. What do y'all mean that old? Like, it's just so funny to me. So if someone's not 21, now they're that old. Like, I just don't understand the connection. It's like you age out, or people start insulting you by saying you're pushing 30 by the time you hit 27 years old. And it's the funniest thing because at 27, you barely even have who you are figured out or your life figured out. There's so much to learn, and ask any woman in their 30s and their 40s and in their 50s, they will tell you that you do not have it figured out in your 20s, okay? Your 20s is just the beginning. Like my mom always says to me, you're just 4 years old in adult years, okay? So to her, she's like, adulthood doesn't start until you're like 20. So with me being 24, I'm 4 years old because this is just the beginning, a new chapter, a new awakening. Because in my personal opinion, I don't think my life began at 16 years old, okay? 16 was so young. I still was in high school. Then I went to college. My parents were funding my life. Now I'm basically doing this by myself, though my parents are amazing and very supportive, okay? Love my mom and dad. Thank you for paying paying for my car insurance. But it's just a way different chapter than what I was when I was even in college. Life didn't really come hit me for real, where I got that reality check until I was in my mid-20s. I'm not even in my mid-20s yet, am I? I'm 24. But I feel like 22, 23 was when I started getting a taste of like, oh, bad things can happen. Like, oh, this is the real world and I gotta figure this out. And I can't have mommy and daddy's hand to hold. And people have told me all my life that I was always very mature for my age. Half of y'all be telling me y'all are shocked that I'm 24, or you guys were shocked when I was 22 making content. Y'all thought I was older by the way I spoke. But when y'all told me that at 22 years old, I promise you I have learned so much since then, and I'm going to be 25 in 2 months. There's so much more life to live. There's so much more character to build. But with the younger generation, Gen Alpha and younger Gen Z, y'all are going to have quite the rude awakening when you guys see how fast time goes by. 18 to 25, it might sound funny to say, like right now, you're probably like, girl, 18 to 25, that is forever away. I have so much time to figure out what's next in my life. Child? Girl, I was just 21 years old. I don't know when the heck I turned 25. Well, I'll be 25. It's crazy how fast time goes by. But I genuinely feel like the younger generation, the reason why they are pushing this rapid ageism, like they're always telling someone they're pushing 30. They're always calling people at 22 or 23 years old unk and auntie. I feel as if they project their own fear of aging onto the older generations. They're cruel to the older generations because their future looks very uncertain. If we're being really honest, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, we do not know what these next 10 years are going to look like. It's actually quite daunting. And quite frankly, the people that y'all are calling aunties and uncles, okay, they very much so had a better childhood, teenagehood, and young adulthood than us. They literally lived their best lives from what we've seen and what they've told us, okay? So it's very interesting to see them coming for the people that actually got a chance to live versus the younger generations don't really have a chance to live because they're stuck and glued to their phones all day, trying to keep up with the trends and try to keep up with the Joneses. I think they too are fearing the fact that the next people coming up behind them will be calling them old very, very much so quickly.
For my ladies in their late 20s, have y'all started experiencing ageism? I have been 27 for not even 3 months, and the amount of ageism that I have experienced is crazy. I've had people talk to me about my 30th birthday. I just turned 27. I've had people tell me I look young for 27. What is a 27-year-old supposed to look like? Am I supposed to have wrinkles? And a lot of this is rooted in the idea that aging is bad when aging is a gift. Not everyone is privileged to see tomorrow. Not everyone has a privilege to grow old. I personally don't believe you're old till you're like 65. But the shift has just been very interesting to me. And I'm very curious to see how it's going to ramp up, because probably what's going to happen by the time I'm like 28, 29.
Like I said, 18 to 25 happens so quickly. Your 4 years in college goes by so fast. You think 25 is old until you're 25. You think 30 is old until you're 30, and you see where you are in life and how much more there is to live.
The young women who mock and write off older women just because they're older are going to be the same women that are in their 40s and in their 50s that make younger women's life a living hell for no fucking reason other than the fact that they're jealous of them because the only calling card they ever had in their life was their youth. And they place so much value on their youth as if that shit was not going to pass inevitably if they're lucky. So those 25-year-olds who look at 45-year-olds and 55-year-olds and they dismiss them and write them off because they're older, those are going to be the fucking miserable 45-year-old and 55-year-olds. Those are going to be the moms who have weird relationships with their daughters. Those are going to be the women at work who, make younger women's life hell for no reason. So if you're a young woman and you're watching this and that applies to you, just know that that's what your fate is looking like, babe. It could never be me. Miss me with that. Older women, let's protect our young girls, and younger women, let's show our older women some fucking respect.
Just look at your parents. Some of y'all who may be around my age, your parents are probably between their 50s and 60s. We've known these people for 20 plus years, okay? So at one point they were 30, at one point they were 40, at one point they were 20. And guess what? They're still here and kicking it. I'm sure you saw them have fun in their 30s. They went to parties in their 30s. They probably celebrated and had fun in their 40s. They lived their lives. They're still living even as we're all aging. Everyone is aging, but they're still very much alive. They're not just strapped to their bed and unable to move because they're past 30 years old.
People who use being younger as a bragging point are funny, because do you understand how hard it is to not D-word in this life? If it's not your body that betrays you, or a so-called family, friend, lover who takes you out first, you could literally be sliding down a slide and there's a nail in the slide and it rip you in half. I grew up watching 1,000 Ways to, because honestly, making it to 25, 35, 55, 65, 85 is a statistical miracle. It is a statistical miracle. All the possibilities of things that could go wrong. All this to say, you will never find me trying to one-up somebody by saying, I'm so much younger, I'm young and turned. Like, yes, I am young and turned, but they are older and alive. Yeah, you can say things about somebody's generation, but don't make judgment and commentary and jokes by virtue of them just being older. Because what are you saying?
Aging is not a bad thing. It's transformative. It's you becoming more of yourself, discovering who you are, not what you want people to think you are. You start to learn what you like. You start to learn what you don't like. You start to figure out that it's okay to just hang out by yourself. You learn so much. But because society glorifies youth, we've confused evolving as a loss. And in doing that, we spend so much time fearing on what is to come versus just living in the moment. I just feel when people call others old, it's just their own fears being reminded that time is constantly moving. And before you know it, it's going to be their time to be that age too that they shame. But the thing is, time is supposed to move. There's a beauty in it. It sometimes can be seen as sad. That's why we have nostalgia and we miss these keen moments. But it's really a beautiful thing, because the only reason why we have nostalgia is because time is moving. Memories are moments from the past. That's how you know you're growing. That's how you know you're evolving. But what's funny is that aging only seems to be deemed negative when it comes to women. I don't hear people calling men old all the time. You don't hear men arguing very frequently and saying to a man, well, you're pushing 30, or calling you old bee, or things of that sort. That's what women do. Women are so quick to call someone old, washed up, and tired. Men don't do the same thing, because we're literally taught that men evolve. Getting older is a good thing. Men become silver foxes. Versus when a woman turns 40, she's asked if she's going through a midlife crisis. Or say that man decides not to have children quite yet and he's pushing 40, and you're like, oh, like, do you want to have kids? And he's like, oh, whenever the time is right. But when that same woman that was born the same day at the same time as this man says that she's gonna wait a little bit longer, she's looked at as if she's crazy, like her biological clock is ticking, which can very much so be seen as the case, because scientifically, yes, women do have less time to create children due to dealing with things like menopause and just the fact that we're the ones carrying and bearing that child. But science has evolved so much that women literally can become moms whenever they want. Women can get married whenever they want. Women can have their eggs frozen. Women can adopt. Women can meet a man at any age and he fall in love with her and she falls in love with him and they get married. Why is it that women's clocks stop but men's don't? For women, aging is seen as a loss of value, but for men, it's seen as gaining power. And I think that's because when we think about looks and beauty, people only deem beautiful as being youthful. Whereas men, as they progress in their career, they're typically making more money. So that's seen as something that is an asset. But I don't understand why a 56-year-old woman can't be deemed beautiful just because she has wrinkles. That makes no sense to me, and it never has. I've seen very beautiful older women. Think of Nia Long, stunning. Think of Angela Bassett, beautiful. Pamela Anderson, beautiful. Halle Berry, beautiful. Michelle Obama, beautiful. Megan Good, beautiful. Carucci, beautiful. All of these women are beautiful, but just because their age number is a little bit higher than 26, that means that they're no longer deemed a beauty because youth doesn't tie to that number. But this is mainly because the beauty standards continuously reinforce the idea that being younger is better. Think of women at 20 years old going to get fillers done. They're getting Botox done. They're getting chin filler, lip injections, all of these things in order to keep on or hold on to their youth for as long as possible. There are so many anti-aging remedies, like you have like people wearing eye patches so they don't get deep creases under their eyes. There's all these lotions and secret potions in order to keep your youth for as long as possible. And that's literally society telling us that women are valuable only when they're younger. It's like when women get smarter and wiser, they're not deemed an asset to society. We don't need them anymore just because they found their wisdom or now they know their worth. And the irony of it all is the fact that we actually are technically aging backwards compared to other generations. What do I mean by that? Well, as I said earlier, mentally, socially, and spiritually, modern women are more evolved than ever. We're doing things that literally didn't exist for women 50 years ago. We're solo traveling. We're starting businesses. We're buying our own houses. We're getting our own credit cards. We're prioritizing therapy. We're prioritizing self-care. We're not getting married at the ripe age of 19 years old. Well, the majority aren't, should I say. 30 today looks like freedom from what society has locked to our titles for so long. It's not just being a wife and a mom. It's going to your favorite workout class. It's doing your skincare. It's going on that girls trip with some of your favorite people that you've known for years. And it's knowing exactly what you want. Our parents were raising families at our age. And the difference is we're raising our standards and the expectations we have in this one life we get to live. So if you really think about it on a deeper scope, we're not aging faster. We're actually living. We're extending our youth through our experiences. I mean, look at millennials. Millennials look phenomenal at their age, though there are some people that are trying a bit too hard. I've seen millennials in their 30s. Millennials do not look like what Gen X looked like when they were in their 30s. And I think that's because there's so much more youth to us because we realize there's so much more than being tied to what society says is important, to what corporate America says is important, to what capitalism says is important. Aging is a blessing, not a failure, okay? And so many women literally say that time and time again, and we have so many examples that I'm about to share with you guys.
To my girlies in their 30s, time isn't running out. It's not. Feels like it is. If you look at social media, oh my God, you're running out of time. It's not. It's not. Other people will make you feel like you're running out of time because they want everyone to do what they're doing so they feel better about their choices. There's no race, like there's no checkered flag at the end of life where they're like, she did it all. Extra stars for when you're dead. Your 30s, travel. Tell people how you really feel. Don't lie to your therapist. And be okay to not be okay. And be okay with missing out because staying in is more fun.
What advice do you have for a young woman turning 30? 30 is the new 20, baby. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Look good, except you have wisdom. You still look good, but you're smarter and you know better and you don't fall for the okie doke anymore. And you're probably more looking for lifestyle instead of looks in a man now. You're mature enough to date a man for his lifestyle, the ability to give you what you want in life. You're probably going to find a provider versus looking for somebody that's just cute and, whatever. So you're more mature, but you still have your youthful beauty. So that's the perfect age to find, a rich man and a provider, because that's what you want now. You're not torn between, having fun and just going out on dates and, twerking at a club. Now you understand what life is about and you're ready to move forward into that next tax bracket.
Think about the 30-year-old plus women that chose to be child-free or chose to be single or are more private about their relationships. Tracee Ellis Ross, Gabrielle Union, Issa Rae, Kelly Rowland, Rihanna, even Beyonce. These women all had different paths, but it shows all the different lanes that we can go through life, and that life isn't cut short all because of a number. Yes, some of them are married now. Yes, some of them have children now. Yes, some of them are dating now. But it just shows that they did it on their own timeline. They put their career first. I'm sure they traveled. I'm sure they dated. But that's because they were given the opportunity because they did not let society shame them. And I'm glad we are now seeing women go on social media who are 30 plus and they talk about how amazing their lives are and how they're okay and they're not dying, okay? They're not on death's door. They're living their absolute best lives.
30s, I swear, is when we peak. 30 is the new 22 to 25. I swear this is the best I've ever looked because I have no man stressing me out. I've gone almost almost an entire year where I have not gone on a date. I haven't met a man in the last 3 years that has made my life easier. Like, they just stressed me out, so I just cut them out. Like, I don't really care. Crazy thing is, every time I have a conversation with anyone, they always like to start off the topic with like, oh, like who you're dating. I'm not dating. And they're like, why not? I'm like, I just don't want to. And they don't know how to respond. I'm just gonna be doing me. Like, I feel so content in my life. I don't need anyone to like ruin it for me. So if the right person walks in, great. And if they don't, like, I'm not really like searching for it. 30s is gonna be my fucking year. I can't wait.
I think the moment we normalize that 22 isn't the end all be all, and we begin allowing women to age naturally and not judging them for doing the one thing that we're supposed to do, age, the less pressure women will have on themselves that they need to be young and that they need to make sure they look young as well. Aging is not losing your youth. It's gaining depth on who you are. It's becoming more comfortable, more aware, and inevitably feeling more alive. Aging is literally one of the greatest blessings because it means you made it. If you're not aging, you're dead. And I said that multiple times in my other video, and that was me at 22 saying that. If you're not aging, you're dead. I say this all the time. So yes, I'm sure turning 30 can be daunting, or for me right now, turning 25 is kind of crazy because I'm so used to being the girl in her young 20s. But there's a beauty in it. I have never felt so confident in my life. I'm growing and I'm evolving every day. I'm trying to become the best version of myself. I respond to things differently. I'm a bit smarter in the decisions I make. This is a beautiful blessing. Every birthday that you have is a blessing. Every wrinkle you get shows life that you lived. So no, I don't believe that 30 should be seen as this negative thing that happens and it just means that your life is over. 30 is not the new 60. I look at 30 as a new beginning. I look at 30 as self-awareness. I look at 30 as new freedom. I look at 30 as new opportunities. In general, I look at aging as all of those things. And as I get older personally, and as I've seen other women get older, I honestly feel like we be looking a little bit better, okay? When I compare myself at 19 to me at 24 years old, I think I evolve every single year. I look good, I'm filling out, I now am exercising and I feel great. I have my own beautiful apartment. 19-year-old me would be so proud of 24-year-old me. And I just find myself feeling more and more comfortable in who I am. What I considered to be my darkest days when I was like 21 and 22, that I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see that light, I feel that light. And I think that we all should realize that with age comes growth, and with growth comes prosperity, and all of those things are ultimately a blessing. So don't be scared to age, y'all, okay? Don't let these little young girls try to tell you that you're old because you're 30. Girl, they are wishing they had the confidence of a 30-year-old if we're being real. And just understand that aging, once again, is a blessing. But you guys, I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on aging? How has aging hit you? How has it affected you? What are your thoughts on getting older? What are some life lessons you learned that can really impact young girls or young women that are scared to get older? Let's get the discussion going on in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I love and I appreciate you all so very much. And I will see you all in my very next video. Love you guys. Bye. Mwah.
Taking you in this moment.